Xin chào, tôi rất vui và vinh dự được tham gia cùng tất cả các bạn ngày hôm nay trong phiên thảo luận về chủ đề không còn là thị trường ngách, đầu tư lồng ghép làng kinh giới trong mọi nhóm tài sản và lĩnh vực. So good afternoon. It's my pleasure and privilege to join you all today for this section. For this session on no longer niche, gender lens investing in all asset classes and sectors. Trước khi bắt đầu, tôi xin tự giới thiệu bản thân. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself. Tôi là Robin Moody và tôi làm việc ở Bộ Ngoại giao ở Canberra và tôi quen Việt Nam rất lâu, bắt đầu năm 1992 khi tôi bắt đầu học tiếng Việt trước khi đi công tác ở Hà Nội. So I've had a long association with Vietnam from the early 1990s when I've studied Vietnamese prior to taking up my first assignment as a diplomat in Hanoi. Tôi rất vui khi có mặt tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh hôm nay và phát biểu tại hội nghị quan trọng này. I'm delighted to be visiting Ho Chi Minh City today and to be addressing this important conference. Đã gần 3 năm kể từ khi kết thúc nhiệm kỳ đại sứ tại Việt Nam, nhưng tôi vẫn nhớ Việt Nam. Đất nước này luôn có một vị trí đặc biệt trong trái tim tôi. It's nearly 3 years since I finished my term as ambassador in Vietnam, but I still miss Vietnam very much, and it continues to have a special place in my heart. And that's the reason I'm so pleased to be part of a conference which is looking at the future, the sustainable future of this wonderful country. Tôi vẫn phụ trách các vấn đề Việt Nam kể từ khi trở lại Úc vào năm 2022. Tôi rất vui mừng khi thấy những tiến triển mà chúng ta đã đạt được trong thời gian qua, đặc biệt trong thương mại và đầu tư. I've been working on the relationship with Vietnam since I returned to Australia in 2022, and I am delighted to see the progress that we have made in that time, especially in building the trade and investment relationship with Vietnam. Sau đây tôi xin phép và sẽ tiếp tục bằng tiếng Anh. And now I'll continue in English. Thank you. So I would like to begin by giving my thanks to Ray's Partners and Vietnam Innovators Digest for hosting such a wonderful event that brings us all here together. Events like today's ESG Investor Conference provide opportunities for us to continue our strong people-to-people, institutional and business links for sustainable and green growth in Vietnam and in the region. The Vietnam-Australia relationship has never been stronger. You are a very important partner for Australia in the region. And Vietnam is really important to Australia's economic future. Our bilateral trading relationship is one of Australia's fastest growing, with two-way trade valued at 28.2 billion Australian dollars last financial year, creating jobs and opportunities in both countries. Since 1974, Australia has delivered over $3 billion of official development assistance to Vietnam. And over the past 50 years, Vietnam has been leveraging this support to strengthen its entrepreneurial capabilities. And the country has used it to attract investment and to combine it with vision, resilience, determination, and creativity as it has driven forward its growth story. Now, I've been very privileged to have witnessed this growth firsthand. As I said, my first posting as a diplomat was in Vietnam from 1993 to 1995, and I served at the Australian Embassy in Hanoi. That was only 7 years after Vietnam's transformational economic reform agenda Doi Moi had been introduced. And at the time, I vividly remember that there was great hope and optimism on the part of the Vietnamese population, especially among the younger Vietnamese. They had great confidence in the future of their country. And although the country was very underdeveloped and impoverished at the time, and it was facing significant challenges in developing a functioning market system, the people of Vietnam believed very strongly that their country was heading towards a bright future. So, when I returned to Vietnam as ambassador in 2019, I was delighted, but I was not surprised at the remarkable social and economic growth that had propelled Vietnam to be one of the most economically dynamic nations in this region. Now, I have a personal view on all of this. I know that there is a lot of economic theory behind Vietnam's economic growth story, but I attribute it in very large part to the clear vision, to the determination, and to the collective efforts of the Vietnamese people. And these are qualities that I have always admired, and I have seen them come to the surface again and again as this amazing country has taken on challenges and succeeded. And I think that this is what has enabled Vietnam to make this incredible economic growth journey, and it will go on into the future. So Australia and Vietnam's partnership continues to flourish. We're investing in SMEs and climate tech startups in Vietnam through impact investment funds and development programs. And this includes the Australia Development Investments Vietnam Climate Window, the Private Infrastructure Development Group, PIDG, the Business Partnership Platform, BPP, and the Australian Climate Finance Partnership. And we're complementing all of these initiatives through our bilateral and regional development programs. This includes programs like Oz for Adaptation, which has been designed to work together with Vietnam in responding to the challenges of climate change facing the Mekong Delta. We also have Oz for Growth, which is supporting Vietnam's transition towards a more inclusive, resilient, prosperous and modern economy with enhanced trade and investment. And then there's Oz for Innovation, that aims to strengthen Vietnam's innovation system and help to shape Vietnam's innovation agenda in science and technology. And our gender equality, disability and social inclusion programming runs through all of our development programs in Vietnam. These initiatives are underpinned by our shared commitment to environment, social and governance principles, which have global importance and have a particularly strong impact in this region. These initiatives demonstrate our support for Vietnam's ESG goals by working with the private sector to deliver climate impact and gender equality outcomes for Vietnam and for the region. ESG is essential for protecting our natural resources, mitigating climate change and creating a resilient future for Vietnam. As we all know, climate change is the greatest shared threat to peace, stability and prosperity, and it affects us all. In Asia, the majority of its labour force participates in sectors which are affected by climate change, like agriculture, forestry and fisheries. And in response, Australia has provided $671 million in climate finance to East and Southeast Asia over the past 3 years. Nearly half of this climate finance, which has been provided and mobilised, is attributable to development finance mechanisms, including loans and blended finance, which capitalise on the attractiveness of Southeast Asian markets for private climate investment. However, ESG investing cannot silo its approach to just climate financing. Gender, in particular, is an area of importance that needs to be more mainstreamed. Women-led businesses are continuously overlooked for investment, despite the fact that women invest up to 90% of their earnings into their families and communities, compared to 35 to 40% invested by men. As Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong has said, gender equality is not just a women's issue. Greater political and economic participation by women makes societies wealthier and more peaceful. So Australia we have a focus on gender not just because we think it supports development, but rather we focus on gender lens investing because ultimately the data also shows us that this is good business. And the World Bank estimates that closing gender gaps in economic participation could add $160 trillion to global human capital. And gender diverse investing also yields 20% higher net internal rate or returns in global emerging markets. Australia has seen the success of gender lens investing firsthand. Our first $15.4 million investment through our flagship Investing in Women program catalysed over $290 million in co-financing for women entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia. In Vietnam more specifically, Australia's Women's Livelihood Bonds supported EVN Finance, a microfinance institution that has invested in women to establish and build their businesses. Australia is also pleased to extend our partnership with Beacon Fund, a Vietnam-based private debt equity fund, to further bridge the finance gap for women-owned or led businesses, which have been overlooked by formal financing. Australia wants to de-risk markets, crowd in greater levels of private investment, and deliver strong development impact as an investor and a partner in Southeast Asia and Vietnam. We can achieve this through ESG and gender lens investing, and we can support Vietnam's transformational growth journey as we do so. And as I said earlier, I feel very passionately about this, and I very much look forward to seeing that growth journey continue and gain strength even more into the future. So I look forward to hearing from our experienced and talented panel members this afternoon, and I'll now pass over to Marie Torres, who will moderate the panel. Thank you very much. Singaman.
Hello. Yes. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Ambassador Robin, for highlighting Vietnam's transformation. I was like listening intently. That's why I didn't notice that your speech has ended. And I was so impressed with, of course, how fluent you still are in speaking the Vietnamese language. So, and also in your speech, you've noted not only transformation, positive transformation, but also the challenges such as climate change, social inequities, in particular gender. And that's very much aligned to what we plan to discuss this afternoon. And I'd like to welcome all of you to our panel discussion. As you know, the title is From Niche to Norm. What will what will it take to shift genderless investing into mainstream Vietnam? So first, I'd like to introduce myself, even though Mimi has already introduced me. So I am Marie Torres. I'm Director of Impact at Sarona Asset Management. Sarona invests in funds across emerging markets. As of date, we've invested in over 50 funds and worked together with almost 200 companies. We manage the Australian Development Investments, or ADI. And now back to our panel session. This conversation is especially timely. I mean, like the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, including gender equity, are facing pushback. As you know, there are, for example, in the US, several major corporations have scaled back or eliminated their gender equality and DEI programs. They've cited that this is due to the government and public sentiments. Yet, here in Southeast Asia, in particular Vietnam, just given the number of people inside this room, I think there's a growing recognition that gender equality is not just a social imperative, it's a strategic advantage. So I would like to, for this panel today, it has brought together investors who are demonstrating that gender smart investing is not only possible, but profitable and scalable. And over the next 30 minutes, I think we only have 30 minutes, right? We'll explore how GLI strategies are being implemented across various asset classes. So from venture capital to private equity, and what are the successes that has been achieved and what challenges remain. So let's start with quick introductions, maybe to keep things a little bit different. I would be requesting our panelists to introduce themselves briefly and yeah, to also share or answer the question. I know this is like sometimes this is a provocative question, but so I want them to answer, why do you care about this gender stuff? So we always hear like gender stuff, and there's like a different intonation to that gender stuff. So for today's opening, like I would want to ask our speakers that question. Or if they don't want to answer that question, they can also answer what was your aha moment in GLI? Okay, over to you, Ilman.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ilman Zikri. I'm currently serving as Assistant Vice President at Swift Capital. For those who are not familiar with Swift actually stands for Southeast Asia Women Economic Empowerment Fund. We are proudly part of Sarona Fund as well. And we are investing in the region, focusing on Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines. To answer your questions, I think my aha moment is represented by Jennifer Buckley, the founder and also the managing director of Swift. I think one of the reasons I joined and believe in the cause because I admire how resilient she is and how I can see that she is really trying to bring the mission into reality. And even like she successfully fundraise the first Swift fund during the COVID period as well. So I'm both by how she really tried to bring it into life.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here. My name is Diệp. I'm a partner at ABB Private Equity. We are a Vietnam-focused fund that backing high-growth SME. And maybe just to answer your questions, we often talked about investing in growth, but the inclusive growth, I think, does not happen by accident. It happens when we intentionally back ideas and talents that is historically overlooked. So that's why I think for us, investing, genderland investing, it's not just about alignment with global agendas. For us, it's just simply good investing. Yeah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Archer from Do Ventures. At Do Ventures, we believe in grow by doing, so we do a lot of hands-on work with our portfolio companies. We primarily invest in Vietnam. For me, why gender is, I think as a firm, we believe that the future will be gender smart, and we really want to empower progress one investment at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think that sets an interesting discussion in terms of your own personal journeys and what your organizations are currently focused on. So let me start the serious questions. The way we would do this is like there's questions for just a few of them or one of them, and then for everybody. And hopefully, we have some time for your questions in the end. Okay, so let me start with Yeb. So ABB has just recently closed its fund, its second fund, and ADI is one of those investors, one of the investors into that fund. So we are very much interested with ABB because it has been supporting high growth businesses in the country, and it has a strong gender lens. So maybe could you please share with us, or could you please describe ABB's gender lens strategy?
Yeah. For us at ABB, I think we don't treat genderland investing as a separate topic, but it is embedded in how we identify and assess business potential. So throughout the whole investment process, from origination to post-investment, so it is like part of our investment process. And in building pipeline, we look to partner or collaborate with women business association and build our network around it so that we can identify women-owned or women-led business. And then we also, when we talk with potential investee, we also bring up the idea about 2X challenge or 2X criteria quite early in the conversation. First, to make sure that we can seek the alignment with the founders of the company. And then, I think we make it at a soft and natural way, and framing it as just part of our understanding about the team, the market, and the business resilience. Yeah, and we follow up with deeper questions during our due diligence process about the team composition, the women leadership, and all of their current policy and practices to see how gender inclusiveness is integrated in the operation or not, and how to address that post deal. So that's how we integrate gender lens into our investment process.
Maybe to add to additional question, like with what you described, like is that something that you've done in your first fund, or over time you've evolved how you've been investing with women, or how have you been integrating gender strategies?
Yes, it's definitely a learning curve. It didn't happen at our first fund, but in our first fund, even though we were not really clear about the 2X challenge or the 2X criteria, but we invested in 5 companies, 5 portfolio companies, and one is founded by a husband and wife. One is founded by a group of friends, and 2 of which are women. One is founded by 2 women, and one is founded by 3 shareholders, 2 are women and one male. So it just happened, and that we have a very diverse genders portfolio company, but and in fund too, I think we evolved. And we committed to the 2X challenge. So I think it's a learning curve, it's a progress.
Thank you. Maybe to Ilman, since SWIFT is operating in Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam, could you share how you also implement your GLI strategy, or what kind of opportunities have you seen in, let's say, Indonesia and the Philippines? And the same as Diep, like any lessons learned from your current portfolio?
If the technician can show the second slide just for illustration. So yeah, I think for gender lens investing, right, it's embedded into our investment thesis and how we approach investment. So as you can see, we are focusing on 4 key sectors, including healthcare, education, sustainable food system, and consumer goods, and also lastly, climate change. So we don't see any limitation by applying gender lens investment into like any investment process, because the way we see it, we can always see it from like multiple layers of gender lens. So we look into the leadership, we look into the workforce, we look into the product and services, and also like the commitment of the management. So for us, when I said that it's embedded into our investment strategy, it's reflected into our key sector focus, which, as you can imagine, like in education, in healthcare, in sustainable food, women is like the major part of the sector, because a lot of the workforce are women in these sectors, right? And for climate, for example, women are also heavily impacted by the climate change, right? So, so when we see like investment in the process of screening, sourcing, or like assessing, we apply this. So it doesn't always have to be like woman-led, right? Because we can look into the workforce. Doesn't have to be always like workforce, because we can see whether there is whether the product or services also cater to women's needs. And even if all the team men, or like the founder is not woman, but if the management can demonstrate like a strong commitment towards gender equality, that also could be like an angle for gender lens investing. And maybe interesting trend that I see, right, that when we are applying this gender lens investing, as a man, I realized that there are 2 interesting opportunities coming out by applying it, like applying the gender lens investing in day-to-day investment process. The first one, we know that women are still underrepresented in the entrepreneurship world, right? Women get less investment compared to like men founders, for example. So it's natural for me when I see like woman-led businesses, I would be curious like what they are doing, like how the business is doing, because many of them maybe are not really, becoming priority of other funds. But for us, they are like our suitable target. They are like a potential partner, so we look into what they are doing. Second one, what's also interesting is that many of the new product or services that targeting or like aiming to serve like women's needs, it could also become like innovative products. What I observe in Indonesia, for example, there are like a plant-based milk led by a woman founder, and the reason why she developed this product is because like her kids has allergy towards like regular dairy, right? Another story of like D2C brand developed in Indonesia, it's called Gently. It's because like the mom, the founder, she has like a very sensitive kid in terms of like skin. So she developed like a very soft baby products, and it became D2C and invested by local VC funds as well even like regional VC funds. So when applying gender line investing, I see that based on that, like new opportunities arise, because for some people, women are not, like preferable. Maybe they are not their focus, but for us, when we see like women-led businesses, we see potential. Second one, when we try to understand like women needs, there are a lot of business opportunity can arise from that and become like interesting opportunities for us to invest.
Thank you, Ilman. I think that's a very comprehensive um, learning experience, an example of GLI. And I remember that SWIFT developed a gender ROI, and maybe that's what you're using in terms of the assessment that you do for these companies.
Yeah, if you can go to the last slide. Yeah, this is also, so Deep shared about like monitoring as well, post-investment, right? So we also do that by applying our gender ROI. So it's a public resource, you can always Google it. But basically we assess and monitor the progress of gender line investing into our portfolio companies using this gender ROI matrix. We look into 4 enterprise dimension and also evaluate the result through the outcome pillars of resilience, opportunity, and inclusion. So for us, ROI doesn't always mean return on investment, but also like how the company perform in terms of resilience, opportunity, and inclusion.
Maybe also return on impact.
Yeah, Mary,
Yes.
you asked a question about what we have learned throughout the process of integrating this into our investment process. And if I may add a very practical experience that we need to be very persistent. And once we have set and agree on a target with the company about this topic, then we make sure that we're chasing them to deliver that. And for this, I think because most of our investee or portfolio company are high growth SME, so they are very early in their ESG journey or gender equality. So our priority is to make sure that we can build the awareness. And then when we support them to build the internal capability, and to follow up with all of the action plan. Yeah.
That's thank you for that additional input, information. And maybe that's also a segue to Archer, since DF has already mentioned, like early stage companies lack some of the foundational requirements. So I wanted to ask Archer in terms of, as a VC firm, when did you first consider GLI, and how have you integrated or used it, applied it in your operation?
I think the incorporation of a gender lens investing it's derived from it's a self-discovery journey. I think my partner V, who founded the firm, is a woman herself. So in her first fund, she invested in many female companies, many female-led companies. Either they have founders or they have shareholders, or they provide services for majority of the clients are females. And I think her point of view was, the way she did it was, she just felt it was right to do it. And it seems like, she could get a connection because she herself is a female. And it seems like to her, at least from her perspective, it seems like the women are also delivering a lot more in certain sectors. Whereas for me, I come from a very male-dominated industry. I don't think there's any industry that's more male-dominated than the fighter pilot community. So I used to be a fighter pilot. I fly the fighter jet. And if you watch Top Gun, Top Gun 1, there's no females. There's just only males, right? And the only female that's in there don't know how to fly. But things have changed. They have changed a lot, because in Top Gun 2, you have Monica, who is the female pilot, Phoenix. Her call sign was Phoenix. So Archer is my call sign. So I think during my 20 years in the Air Force career, I noted something. I was in the Air Force when there was no female fighter pilots, no female pilots, no female fighter pilots. Then over the years, we started to have more females into the workforce. And it was a very deliberate effort to bring females into the community for a couple of reasons. I think one is we just needed more people to join. And so, then the second is that they actually brings a very different value to the whole environment. We always think that a sector like such as a pilot piloting world is for males only, and only males can do it well. It is like that because it's a mindset, it's a barrier that we formed within the male community, right? We set it up for ourselves, and only males can be in. But the moment you start to have female pilots and you work with them, and you realize that they bring a very different perspective to even simple things like planning, like mission planning. So for me, it's like I see the evolution across 20 years where we started to have more and more females, and I realized something. You know, when I speak to V, I said that, hey, when our next fund, what should we do? Should we land a bit more focus on gender? And she said, yeah, why not? And then we started to look at our Fund 1 portfolio, and we look at it, and we realized that, oh, actually, Fund 1 portfolio companies are doing reasonably well when there are a bit of the female angle to it. So then we realized, actually, investing using a gender lens is not a compromise. It's actually a capability. And then we said, come, let's go. That's how we started. Yeah.
Yeah, so from fighter pilot to venture capital investor.
It's all about managing risk.
It's like a very diverse. You've mentioned a little bit, Archer, about the benefits of integrating gender lens strategy or applying gender lens strategy, and Diep and Ilman both mentioned about the processes, the how. And when we started, all of you answered the whys. Why do you do this? So I guess like we've done with the whys, with the how. I think everybody's in this room is interested to know, so what? So like, have you achieved what you envisioned in terms of the performance of the fund? If you could share one success story to demonstrate that GLI really works, it could make a difference, both on the financial performance and impact-wise, social and environmental impact. Would you like to start? Yeah.
Okay. If we look from our portfolio company standpoint, so I think obviously having a diverse management team is an advantage. And let me take a very specific example of one of our Fund 1 portfolio company. So we observed that the company, even in male-dominated industry like transportation or IT, the company who are led by or managed by women perform no worse than the one led by men. And we have a cross-border trucking company, which is led by a woman. And the company's performance were like decreased significantly during COVID because they run cross-border. So and the major route is between Vietnam and China. And at that time, the border was locked down. And even after COVID, the border between China still closed their borders. So I think that was a really tough time for the company. And she tried to manage, first to quickly diversify the routes. So the key route would be diversified through other countries in Southeast Asia. And then she also used the time to implement a TMS, the Transportation Management System, trying to improve the efficiency of the operations. And also she used our injected capital to buy new temperature control trucks so that they can diversify their service. So I think the way she managed to get the business like come through the volatility of the market is like and after COVID, now at this moment, the result of the company has already tripled as compared to the time, the COVID time. So, and I think we are on the right track to deliver our financial goals for the company and for the fund. And from our fund point of view, I think like by being able to articulate and implement a credible ESG and gender equity strategy, definitely play a significant role in helping us successfully raise funds from international partner, from Sarona, a champion in gender strategy. So I think that we deliver the goal. That's how demonstrate how we deliver the goals.
That's 3X is a really interesting performance, really good performance. And Archer, I saw you
Oh, I just wanted to share that because for us, we did a back testing of using the 2x criteria on our fund portfolio companies. It's not a lot of data, but at least it's something for us to hang our hat on. And we realized that those in the top buckets are those that achieve quite a number of the 2x criteria. And our top performer is actually totally fulfilled the 2x criteria, and it's a content creator company called Me Too. And their slogan is Live by Passion, and they really enable female content creators to make a living, a sustainable living. So that's the company. Then when we look at the bottom company is the one that did not meet any of the 2x criteria, and it happens to be in the bottom. So I don't know what the data is saying, but at least for what I read, how I read it is that I think there's a case for it. Yeah.
Okay, maybe from one of the story that I want to share, maybe like the way we structure a deal in Indonesia, where like the company is actually co-founded by 3 male founders, but they actually have like one co-founding female founder or like founding team. And then as part of the structure, we want the female co-founding team to get like ownership in the business. So it's structured that the female co-founding team should later get ownership through that. And then that decision result in super good performance in terms of the company, because obviously when currently the female founder serve as the CEO, and we can see that having ownership in the business really make her drive the business even better, because she no longer see herself as just part of the team, but also owning the business. So I think another story is that sometimes you can also like force like the existing team to consider like giving ownership towards the female founding team, and it result in a good business performance for the business.
You've touched upon an important element of women's empowerment, which is ownership. And another aspect to empowerment is, like having role models, having the power to influence. And I know that ABB has a, good balance in terms of gender representation in their team. And you yourself, Yep, is a partner at ABB. So at ABB. So maybe you want to you could share, for example, how you try to influence other women in the financial sector. Like really use that power to influence to improve like women's role in your organization or enterprise.
Yeah, as I think as we joke at the beginning this afternoon, my colleagues often complain that there's too much female power within our office. Yeah, because our fund has 2 female partners, myself and Lanang. So I think for me, because ABB fund is still a small team, and I think we operate by honor collective contributions. So I make sure that every member in our team have a chance to speak up, regardless of gender or seniority, and I think that kind and we encourage our team member to take leadership of their work, and with the support from more senior colleges. And that kind of approach extended to when I work with portfolio company as well. And I think I noticed that if the women see other women like confidently leading the conversation, is kind of encourage them to speak up. So for me, I think influence, sometimes it's just simply about making sure that you give room for the other to get in and to be heard. Yes, so that it is for me.
Really good. I'm also reflecting in terms of, as a, a team leader, like how am I able to provide that opportunity with my teammates for them to shine, for them to really take on that leadership responsibility. And yeah, we have, aside from DF and me, of course, like we have 2 gentlemen here in the panel. Now I want to switch a little bit and ask them. Ambassador Moody mentioned that gender is not just a women's issue a while ago, and from your standpoint, how would you champion change or promote gender equality in your organization? Or, you could give an example of how you've seen men also taking that, I would say, first step to create a more equitable organization.
Yeah, so I think the way I believe we do it at SWIFT is that by uphold the principle of gender equality itself in our day-to-day life. That's what's really important, because without really living the word, you don't really show people how to do it, right? So I think 2 examples of how we do it, or maybe 3 examples. Number 1, I'm the first male member of the team. So, we have a lot of female members in the team, but we also have gender ROI that we apply to ourselves, to our organization. So like periodically, we always look into that number and seeing that we need to have more balanced gender in the team. And that's a reminder for us to keep improving on that. Another example, for example, is that, it's not always easy to really show it in day-to-day life, right? For example, currently I'm alone in Indonesia because my VP is on a maternity leave. It's not easy because at some point I need to also step up and covering what she supposed to do, so that she can enjoy her time with like the newborn, right? So that's how we try to also show that we really want our female colleagues to enjoy those times, and for us to be able to do that, like the male team members need to step up, right? And a last example is that in the recruitment, we always try to have a balanced gender, evaluating the candidates, and also making sure that we give the same opportunity for any genders in the recruitment process.
Archer,
Yeah, so for our end, how we champion this is that first is by soft and hard coding. So by what I mean is that when we hard code something, we actually embed it into our process. So we embed the entire gender investing consideration and assessment into our investment process, so that everyone, whether you like it or not, you're forced to do it, because that is the first part in getting people to behave in a certain way.
Yes.
Second is soft coding. Soft coding, by means of soft coding, is we educate people. We talk to our own guys, because first and foremost, we come from this perspective that it's a niche. So therefore, in order to be mainstream, we need to let more and more people know, and you start from within. And last but not least, apart from hard coding, soft coding, then people will still look up to myself and my partner, right? So we have to lead by example. We need to be the one that foster an inclusive environment. We need to be the one that provide the resources for them to do gender lens consideration, gender lens investing. I think it's only through this that we can really succeed as a firm. And as a firm, we succeed. We try to bring this out to the portfolio companies, and from the portfolio companies to the greater society. Yeah.
I agree. I think we have the similar way of doing like Archer, but instead of calling soft and hard coding, we call it a stick and a carrot.
We're learning a lot of terminologies here. I know we're at time. Maybe to conclude this very nice session, I wanted to ask one more question. So this is like looking ahead. What do you think are the most exciting opportunities for scaling GLI here in Vietnam? Maybe you can have some announceables, or like just to keep everyone really excited with what could come next. Maybe we could start with.
Can I volunteer
Yeah,
again?
sure.
Okay. I think we see several exciting opportunities here, and I think because there are growing recognitions, as we all mentioned here, that gender land investing is not delivering social goal; it's a business target. And as I remember, I read that women controls 80% of consumer spending power in Vietnam. And there is a growing participant in leadership and in workforce. So obviously there is a compelling market case for us to invest in women as a leader, worker, and consumer. Yeah, so
well said.
I think sometime like previously, my husband decided which car to buy. Our first wish is our first car to buy, but for the second, I was the one who decided. So
Milestone.
milestone, yes. And then there is also, I think, the second business generations where younger founders are more open to embed ESG and gender lens early in their growth journey. And then also LP are setting expectations, which have to create alignment across the investment chain. And for us, ABB, as I mentioned earlier, for Fund 2, we commit to deliver the 2X challenge. And that means we need to support our portfolio companies hand in hand to work working toward that goals. And I think our commitment is to make genderland investing part of the DNA of how we invest. So it's not an option, it's not an add-on. It's a driver of performance, resilience, and long-term value. So that's what we look for.
Well said. How about you, Ilman? Maybe for last.
Yeah. So earlier this year, I think Swift launched this Kinetic Swift entrepreneurship program in Indonesia, where we work with the Fed to address a specific intersection in the between gender and climate, because we see like a high correlation between these sectors, and we are trying to develop more companies that address and nurture more companies that address this intersection of the sector, and we plan to expand and bring the learnings of that program hopefully to Vietnam soon as well.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, so here I don't want to sell to ventures, but I want to lobby. I think one of the great opportunity lying in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia is that we can be part of the community to make gender lens investing from niche to mainstream. And I think we need more guns and butter. Not what Winston Churchill means by guns and butter, but guns in terms of firepower. I think we need capital. Capital not only to invest in companies, but capital to conduct community engagement to make sure that we can educate and train more people and to be aware of this. And butter, what I mean from butter is having the lubricant. Decision makers, policy makers, governments, I think they have to play an important role, and we all need to come and lobby together to make sure that they set the correct policies to enable such things to happen in the long term, because a lot of money going in can bring about short-term benefit, but in order for this endeavor to become to have long-term effect, I think we need policies from the highest level down to even policies made by company leaders, your HR policies, your gender lens policies. I think these are important things. They are small things, but it brings about long-term benefits to the community.
Yeah. Okay. Those are a lot of, I would say, ingredients to ensure that GLI moves from niche to mainstream. And yeah, I wouldn't say anything more, but I guess like momentum is there, and with our 3 investors here, definitely I see that there's a promising growth in here in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. And I think that this concludes our session this afternoon, and thank you everyone.